And good afternoon, everyone out there in internet land. This is Yvonne DeVita again. And I don't even know, it's a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday. I don't know what day it is because I just got back from that long trip I took, a month-long trip away from the office. It was a workcation, Joss, not a vacation. So we worked a little bit while we were on our trip, and we're glad to be back here in sunny Binghamton. It is actually sunny today. This is Smart Conversations, and my guest today is Josh Baker. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on today. I've been looking forward to this.
Excellent, excellent. Well, everyone, I want you to know that Josh is an entrepreneur, and he's always been naturally drawn to entrepreneurship. He also hosts the Intelligent Conversations podcasts, and he owns and operates Baker Windows. So I'm really interested in Baker Windows first. Tell me a little bit about Baker Windows.
Yeah, I'm thank you again for having me on. I'm excited to be on your show today. And Baker Windows, it's actually funny. I initially, when I graduated high school, the podcast is all I want to do, right? Like intelligent conversations. And what's funny is I decided I'm not going to go to school, and I'm like, you know what? Like, let's just go all in. Let's see what happens. And kind of something that my parents said, like, hey, you got to like make money if you want to stay here type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a fair, like, that's a fair thing. So I'm like, all right, let's figure out a way to make money, because for those of you know, podcasting doesn't, right off the get-go, you don't make that much.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what, let's I had this mentor of mine, and he told me, he's like, hey, have you looked at window cleaning? I'm like, no, I have no clue. He's like, well, they make pretty good money. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll check it out. And I literally I remember I signed up for just kind of see what this website does. They do like lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
The guy calls me up, he's like, hey, so you thinking of starting a window cleaning business? I'm like, yeah. And long story short, after that call, I was like, man, I guess I'm starting a window cleaning business.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then as I, kept going and learning more about window cleaning, I guess you could say, and cleaning and all things about that, I kind of was drawn to this robot type thing. I was like, I bet we could automate this and stuff. So I looked it up, I Google searched, I was like, window cleaning robot, and on Alibaba there was a window cleaning robot, and I connected with the manufacturer, and I'm like, hey, what you guys have here is cool, and I'm betting, maybe some cleaning supply companies would, or cleaning companies would love to have this. And and I kind of just threw that up on the site and just said, hey, let's see where that takes me. And yeah, the window cleaning, window robots, that's kind of what I do there.
Window robot, what is, I don't get it. You have a little robot you put on the window that cleans the window?
Yes, it's pretty cool actually. It's like a Roomba kind of, but for windows. And it sprays what it does is it has a little water tank, and it sprays water on the windows or whatever solution that you want to put in it. And it actually has a pretty long, like I've been able to clean about, what is it, like 20 windows without refilling the tank. It's pretty like efficient.
Wow.
In terms of like the holding solution stuff. There is some, I will admit, there is some drawbacks to it, and I'm working with them like, hey, like, one of the things is it's attached to a cord, so you have to be near an outlet to use it. And that's like, dang, right? And
yeah.
I'm like, if we can get a battery powered unit, that's something. So I'm working with them saying, hey, like, this is something I bet we could like get way more sales if we were to do this. And that's an ongoing process right now. So that's kind of,
well, that's really entrepreneurial, because you took the initiative to look at a different way to do something. I want to talk about your mentor. Who was your mentor, and where did you find one? I tell people to find themselves a mentor. Where did you find yours?
So, I mean, this is actually another, I would say it's a lot of things I have found in life, or just anything, right? It's just kind of came out. I don't want to say out of nowhere, but like, I just kind of took that chance type of thing, right? I was like, you know what, let's just see what happens type of thing. So when I found my mentor, I was back in high school. It was my senior year, and I had signed up for this class, an internship class, and I was like, yeah, the year's about to start, and you need to find an internship in order to take the class, right? And I didn't have one. The school year is starting, and I'm like, oh boy, yeah, I need to find one. So my mom, is getting on me. She's like, hey, like find a freaking like internship, and I was thinking, well, I know I want to go into like business. I would love to, intern at like a startup or something like that, because I don't want to be one of those interns that just sits there and like grabs coffee and just,
Right.
hey, here you go. Like I want to actually do something type of thing. And like in a startup, they're so busy. I know that they would be willing to take me. So I what happened is I told her that, and she's like, well, I have a cousin, her husband's he's an entrepreneur, he does some things and he's been rather successful. How about you intern with him? And I was like, okay, sure. And he was cool with it. So I went with him. His name's Randy Lang, phenomenal guy. He has a book called Believe It. And he shared that with me. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is my people. Like, and he just kept sharing all these things. And I read his book and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do type of thing. And he really helped me focus in on some of the things that I want to achieve. Cause I always knew, right? Like I wanted to start a business, but it's like how I was going to do it. I had no idea how I was going to do that. So he kind of helped set me on that track
Well,
towards.
that's exactly what a mentor does. And a lot of people today, especially in the economy, the way it is in the US,
Mhm.
and people are looking at alternatives to that 9 to 5 job. And a
Mhm.
lot of people are thinking maybe I can be an entrepreneur, but nobody really knows what that means. What does being an entrepreneur mean to you?
Well, this is one thing I will say. An entrepreneur, you have to be willing to take risk. That's
Mhm.
first step. I think there's no such thing as I mean, maybe there is, and I'm yet to find it, but I don't think there's such thing as a safe entrepreneur. I mean, there is definitely, some people that are, more aware of risk and like take smaller risk, but they still take a risk type of
Right.
thing. So I think you have to be willing to take risks in order to be an entrepreneur. And you also have to be bold. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to, even if you feel unqualified, and here's a secret, everyone's unqualified at the start, regardless of whatever your background is. You can get training. I'm actually, as much as I think people think I hate college, I actually am a big advocate for it. I think it's good. I think people should go because it's good for additional training. But I mean, I kind of have that drive. I'm like, no, I need to learn faster than people next to me, right? That kind of that natural competitiveness that I have. And so that's kind of why I kind of foregoed it. I'm even thinking now, I'm like, maybe I should just go take a course or two and, learn some more, get some additional training and get qualified. But you never stop learning as well. That's another thing as an entrepreneur. And you have to be willing to fail. If you're not willing to fail, then
Well, that's part of
that's,
the risk, isn't it? And
yeah.
I just switched this to speaker view because that's what I usually do, but you've got me so, thinking and listening to you that I forgot to do that. Um, the risk, I mean, first of all, the first risk is deciding I'm going to do this thing, because being an entrepreneur means you don't have that steady weekly or biweekly paycheck or
Yeah.
whatever it was. You probably don't have health insurance. You have to get your own. And then you have to be your own boss. And I think a lot of people, they they see that immediate risk as, well, I'm smart, I know this, I have this hobby I do really well, so
Hmm.
I can do it. But they forget about the way you have to be your own boss, because then you have to hold
Yes.
yourself accountable, right?
Oh, yes. Accountability, especially, that's when, especially if you have like other people, like I've like contracted out some people sometimes to help me with window cleaning if I have like a busy week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And usually if someone were to mess up, it's not the employee or the contractor. It's not their fault. Ultimately, the person that is paying you is going to be like, hey, what's up with this type of thing? And you have to take responsibility for that and try and fix it, offer refunds. And it's not, I would say this, it's not as easy as the internet makes it looks, but
That's a good point. Yeah. I mean, so the internet tells us, here, take this course and you're going to make 6 figures this year, right? Have you
yeah.
seen, I mean, how
Oh
many
yeah.
times do you get that in your social media? I get it in my social media like daily. And it's like, no, really, I've been doing this for a long time and that is so not true.
Well, even those, like you look at those courses and it's like, all right, how long have they been doing it? And most of the time they've been doing it for years to come. They're like, well, I'm going to help you skip all the things that I learned from them. I'm like, you can still learn from them, sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like they have some natural talents that they just, they didn't have to worry about it. Maybe they were just naturally a nice person type of thing. And some people, right, they're like, oh, right, I need to treat the customer first. I need to have good customer service type
Mhm.
thing. And they have to learn that type of thing. Whereas some people, it's just natural to them. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm just naturally good at this. So sure, they might be sharing it on their course social media, but every person's unique and they have different needs and different things they need to learn in
Mhm.
order to become a successful entrepreneur.
So how long have you been doing your entrepreneurial business?
Well, I mean, I've always just kind of naturally been drawn to it. I mean, I've been doing Baker Windows and Intelligent Conversations for about a year, almost a year and a half now. So that's kind of exciting. And when I was a kid, I just remember my just the typical lemonade stand. I was like, my mother was like, I remember we went to a grocery store when I was very little, and I was like, yo, I want a candy bar, Mom. And she's like, well, get the money to do it. And I was like, well, I don't know how. And I just remember I typed in Google how to make money, and then it popped up with things I didn't even understand. So I'm like, how to make money for kids type of thing. And the first thing that popped up was
Stuff.
lemonade stand. So I opened one of those up with my buddies and made good money for our age. And then I did snow shoveling, kind of those type of things when I was a little bit older. And then this is actually kind of cool. What we would do is we would go buy candy bars from Costco. We built a hut type of thing. And after school, my friends and I, we would sell candy bars and drinks and stuff out of this little hut. And that's just what we did. And the joke is one of my friends he was the salesman. He would always be trying to like upsell, like, hey, you should buy like 6 candy bars, even though no kid needed that much sugar.
Yeah.
And then my other friend was the marketer. Like, I remember me and him would go out and he would be we'd be slapping papers on doors like, hey, come to Bosco. Or we'd put stuff on the school playground and stuff and say, hey, we called it Bosco. Come to Bosco. We sell candy and stuff. And
That's
then
funny.
I was the one that was like, hey, what if we bought like candy bars from Costco? It's a little bit cheaper and we can sell them at the same price, right? I was more of I don't want to say the brains, but more of like, hey, let's make this so we can make money type of
Right,
thing.
right. You had a strategic plan.
Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was, yeah, I've always just naturally been drawn to it though.
Well, that makes sense, but there are a whole lot of people who didn't have Google to go to type in, which but now people do, and that's some ways that's the beauty of it, but it's also there's a danger there
Mm,
because A, you can get a lot of misinformation, or
yes.
B, you can end up at one of these sites where, to your point earlier, they're going to jump you ahead and you're going to pay them $50,000 for that benefit, when really it doesn't always work, because the average person needs a lot of hand holding. You can't just take
Hmm.
a course and jump ahead a year and a half or 2 years and
Yes.
suddenly you're there. You still need to take step by step by step.
Well, that's something I actually believe too. You can learn all you want, but I think the real learning comes to actually taking action. right? Like testing it out. Like you can still, right, to your point, you can take that course, and oftentimes, right, you go and try it and you're like, oh, this was useless. Why did I like, because you just weren't ready for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then down the road, you're like, oh, I remember I took this thing. It didn't make any sense, but now that I'm here, this makes sense, and I should take this course again,
Yeah.
learn from that, and
Yeah.
those type of things.
So you have a competitive nature, I understand.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I am.
Tell us about that.
Well, I don't know. So I think I told you this kind of a little bit before the show and stuff. And I recently took I recently had a birthday. My dad gifted me the Strength Finders test. And it's important to, identify your strengths and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
find what you're good at. And funny enough, the thing that was the top of my list was competitiveness. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me that much. But, and I've always been competitive. I've played sports all my life. And even now I work out just because there's that feeling like, oh, I can just do so much more, right? Type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as humans, we're all naturally, we want to build something. Now we have maybe various forms of how we want to do that. And maybe mine just happened to be business, but other people, they want to build families. Other people want to build uh, relationships, build platforms. Like you can build anything. We're just naturally, I think, drawn to that. And I think that especially in business, you have to kind of be competitive because other people have ideas. Other people are smart too.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in window cleaning, I'm afraid to admit this. This is something I worked on. I'm like, you need to stop this. But when I first started, I was so just competitive. I hated seeing when someone else would put up a sign saying, "Hey, get your windows clean." I would take them out of the ground. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not doing this type of thing. Like this is my turf. But I think as I'm learning, getting older, I'm like, there's a healthy balance. Competitiveness can be something where it pushes you to be better. And because I mean, if you're just not willing to, I mean, everyone compares themselves to other people, right? Especially on
Mm-hmm.
social media, especially kids my age, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm just not adequate. I mean, that's a whole different subject, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's actually can be a good thing at sometimes, because as long as you don't let it like consume you and like take over your world, like, oh, I'm never going to be as good as them. And you understand like, hey, these guys have been working 8, 10, 20, 40 type of years. If you understand that and then be like, all right, how can I maybe get it in 30 years? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that competitiveness like kind of gives you like a sense of urgency, but it's like it pushes you to be better than you were yesterday. And ultimately, that's what I think we all want. We want to be better people than we were yesterday.
Yeah, I think so. I think competitiveness. So I have a lot of there are a lot of other people who do what I do, like
Mm-hmm.
you. And I don't actually compete with them because my clients are not their clients. And there
Exactly.
are clients or people who come to me that I can't serve, so I can send them to someone else. And it's good to have someone I trust that I can send them to. And in the end, my competitiveness is with myself. So I continually try to learn more and be better so that I can serve the clients that I have and will have, and make sure that I'm giving them the best advice and the best service that I can. And I think in entrepreneurship, that's one of the first things that you have to do is make sure that you're, as we said, in learning mode. So continuing to not not look for these courses that are going to make you rich, but look for things that are going to teach you what you need to know to make your business better.
Exactly. I think you hit it right on the dot there too. I think compete with yourself that's important, because ultimately if your business isn't serving your clients, like you can win over that client, but if you're not satisfying their needs as good as the other person, I mean, they can just do it better. They live a happier life. you live a happier life because you're actually working with people that
Yeah.
have similar interests, similar values, similar like what they want type of thing from you. And but yeah, I think
Well,
you hit.
the other thing is if you get too competitive, you end up trying to compete on price. And in my world, I'm a service. So I don't compete on price. You do not pay me for my time. You pay me for my expertise, and you pay me for the service I'm going to provide you. And we discuss how long that might take, but I'm not an hourly employee. That's what I gave up when I decided not to stop being an employee. So in the end, sometimes I compete on the basis of what do I have that can I do it faster or can I do it better, or what are the things that I have to offer. And generally I tell people all the time that one of the things I'm offering you is the fact that I don't know everything. I do not know
Yeah.
everything in this business. I do not have all the answers, but I sure as heck know where to get them. And I will go out and find them if you need me to. So I want to talk about intelligent conversations. Talk to me about your podcast.
Yeah, I would love to. Intelligent conversation. This was, again, it just, I know I'm probably not helping, but it just naturally, I remember I was mowing the lawn and I was like, I actually got invited on so a little bit towards, so during my internship or mentorship with my mom's cousin's husband, I mean, he kind of gave me that drive, like, hey, let's take that first step. Experience is the best way to teach you type of thing. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And we kind of were toying around with some ideas. And I mean, I consider this maybe a business failure. I think I might bring it back later. But what I did is I made Christmas trees out of like tinsel and hangers and stuff. And I was like, all right, let's sell these. I made like a little website and it's like, all right, let's sell these online. And I blasted it on social media, and then I got a couple sales. I made good money, but I ultimately I learned a lot from that experience. I'm like, all right, I need to do this differently. But I kind of just switched in that mindset. Okay, what can we learn from this type of thing? And but during that thing, there was a person that reached out to me on LinkedIn, and they invited me onto a podcast, and I was like, at this point, I didn't really know what a podcast was. I was like, all right, yeah, I'll come on. And I was super, super nervous. I was like, oh my goodness, like this is this is a big deal. And excuse me, I remember he invited me and he just asked questions. I'm like, I like this. And I just felt so great after. I'm like, this is happiness. Like I like doing this. And a couple months go by and I'm thinking, right, as I'm graduating, all right, what do I want to do type of thing? Like, where do I know I want to go into business, but what do I kind of want to do? And I remember I was mowing the lawn. I'm like, well, you felt pretty great when you got invited onto that podcast. I'm like, what if we did that for others, right? Like, what if we just invite random people from various backgrounds and then just have them talk and just share what they're doing, kind of their expertise, what they do. And, and this is developed over time. So, I mean, right now, right, intelligent conversations is everyone has a form of intelligence that resides within them. And because everyone has something that they're really good at. And quite frankly, better, like, again, the competitiveness that they're just better than everyone else at. And thing is I'm like, they should thrive at that. And I want to give them kind of a medium to just kind of share with people. Like, hey, this is what I do. This is what I'm good at.
You've had quite a few people on. How many podcasts have you done so far?
Oh man. So I did it. I started back in 2021 of June.
Okay.
And the first episode was just some buddies from school. I was like, all right, I bought a mic and I'm like, let's see what happens. And we did that. And then, I kind of invited some other people I knew and just did that. And then kind of found like Podmatch and then Podguess is the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, this has a lot of people that are interested in podcasting. And that's what kind of got me into that and finding other guests. I'm like, oh, I could do so much more with this too. And so I kind of pivoted a little bit and decided, hey, let's start inviting some other people. And now we're at I believe so season, I do it in seasons by year. So seasons are the year, and then yeah, I started in June. So the first season was June to December of 2021, and then season 2 is this year. And yeah, we're December's closer now than January, so I'm about to finish a full season, I guess you could say.
So I was on the show because I found you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. LinkedIn is, I think, very underrated.
Yeah, I saw a podcast you did with someone and I was really impressed. I thought it was well done. And I thought, I want to be on that show. So I
Yeah,
wrote to you and said, can I be on your show?
exactly. And I loved having you on, and you shared, I think, a lot of great things that people can benefit from and learn from. And that's kind of what I want to do, is especially right, like where a lot of people are, like some of my audiences are in school, or just, some of them are just everyday people wanting to learn more.
Right.
But some of these kids, right, there's this pressure on them, like, oh, I gotta choose a major, but just kind of realizing like, hey, there's other options, like you can pursue different paths, and this isn't the only option. Don't get me wrong, it's a great option, but it's not the only option, and there's other options out there. And that's something that I want for other people.
I like that a lot, because I think that we're doing a disservice to our kids when we continue to say the only thing is you have to go to college, get a 4-year degree, and then get a master's and blah, blah, blah. And that's good for a lot of people, but it's not good for everybody. We're not, like you said earlier, everyone's unique. We're not all cut from the same cloth. Why do we keep saying to these kids, you have to do this, because if you don't, you'll be a failure? That's absurd.
Well, I think one of the causes might, well, I think education's good, and
Yes.
learning and all that. But I mean, it's hard to teach thousands of people, right? Like, because you have to there has to be some form of structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's hard is, right, I learn differently, you learn differently.
Yeah.
I'm wired different. Like, everyone's wired just differently in how they learn. And thing is when you're trying to educate thousands of people, it's like, well, only certain people learn this way, and they're going to go off and they're going to be successful. It's great, awesome. But then some people, they kind of get left behind because that's just not how they learn, type of thing. And they learn in a different way, and maybe they need to go explore this option instead before, and then maybe reroute, come back here and do that instead.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, is that you don't have to do it the way society says, and you can always come back later on. I think that's a big thing. Kids don't, of course, and I was the same way. You're 18, 19, and you don't think of yourself at 35, but you can get from 19 to 35 doing odd things or becoming an entrepreneur. And at 35, you can swing back and say, hey, I do want to now go and study something at school, or take time off and become this or that. And then it's really we should be looking at the talents that kids have and saying, well, what is that? How does we best use that talent? Where is that talent best applied?
Exactly. And developing those talents too, right? Because I mean, this is something, again, basketball. I love basketball. Just, again, the competitive nature of it. It's awesome. But Kevin Durant, he says talent is nothing without hard work, and you gotta put in, right, the work and develop that talent. But that's the thing, is those people that develop those talents, though, they tend to be really good at what they do, and they're rewarded for it too.
And they're hard workers because, like you, I think you do have the entrepreneurial gene. It's quite clear. I did not. Not in the beginning, although my mother was a shop owner. She had a little store. It was a corner grocery store, and that's where everybody would get their groceries. And I used to have to work in it now. I hated it. I can't tell you how much I hated it. And so I think it was like, I'm never going to do this. But I think I did absorb. I absorbed a lot from having to go to the public market and buy the groceries and bring them back and stack the shelves and all those kinds of things. I learned a lot more than I thought I was learning at the time. But we're at the end of the show now, and this has really been great. I really enjoyed it. Tell us what you would like people to know about you and where you would like them to find you.
Well, I would love to have anyone that's listening. I have people on from various backgrounds. I do not care what whether you think you're qualified, like you're a PhD, or if you're just cruising along in life. I do not care what degree or what you have. I'd love to have you on my show, Intelligent Conversations. And you can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also Intelligent Convos, CONVOS.com. And there's information there. You can reach out to me there. If you're interested in the Baker Windows, that's Baker dash and then windows.com. You can reach out to me there as well. And LinkedIn, you can also find me on LinkedIn. Instagram, I'm pretty big on Instagram. And yeah, those are my two platforms I like to be on.
Awesome.
I'd love to chat.
Yeah, we will be putting all that in the blog post so that people can just click right through. And Josh, I want to thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. It's kind of a treat for me because I generally talk to old people like myself. So it's always nice when I have a young person on who can remind us that this is what we used to be like when we were young.
No problem. Thank you, Yvonne, for letting me come on to the show. I always appreciate an opportunity. Like I mentioned in the show, I enjoy guesting, and hopefully I wasn't too talkative or kind of went off in too random areas.
No, you were fine. You were fine.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch.
Awesome.
This is Yvonne DeVita from Smart Conversations, and I will see you next time.